Why do incompetent people constantly complain? Buddha's teachings. Introduction. People who constantly complain. In modern society, many people feel dissatisfied with various aspects of their lives. Whether it's work, family, relationships, or even dissatisfaction with themselves, the feeling of discontent often arises. But why is it that people, particularly those who feel limited in their abilities, tend to complain constantly? In this script, we will explore the answer to this question through the teachings of Buddha. Chapter 1. Incompetence and the Gap in Self-Evaluation. The term incompetence is often misunderstood, but here, it refers to a state where one is dissatisfied with their own abilities or feels less confident when compared to others. This sense of inadequacy is deeply related to self-evaluation, and the lower one's self-esteem, the more likely they are to complain. Low self-esteem and external validation. People with low self-esteem tend to overly rely on external validation. When individuals feel that their worth is solely determined by the judgment of others or society, they become anxious and dissatisfied. In Buddhism, it is taught that one must learn to look inward rather than depending on external validation. The trap of comparison. Comparing oneself to others leads to losing sight of one's true self. Those who feel limited in their abilities often compare themselves to others and feel they are lacking, leading to frustration. However, Buddha's teachings emphasize the importance of freeing oneself from comparison and accepting oneself as one is. Chapter 2. The mechanism of how a sense of incompetence leads to complaints. Why do people continue to complain? The reason lies in the feeling of incompetence and low self-esteem. In this chapter, we explore the underlying mechanism. The defense mechanism of feeling incompetent. When individuals feel limited in their abilities, they unconsciously blame others or their circumstances as a defense mechanism to protect themselves. This psychological defense, however, obstructs self-growth and traps people in a cycle of constant complaints. Dependency on external factors. People try to compensate for their feelings of inadequacy by relying on external factors, but since they cannot control external situations or the actions of others, it only leads to more complaints. Buddhism teaches that looking inward and calming one's mind is the key to true happiness. Chapter 3. The 3 poisons that give birth to complaints. In Buddhism, there are 3 fundamental causes of suffering known as the 3 poisons: desire, greed, anger, and ignorance. These poisons are the roots of complaints and discontent. Greed, the unfulfilled desire. When desires are unfulfilled, people naturally feel frustrated. The inability to satisfy material desires or expectations of others can make one feel powerless. Those who feel incompetent often express this dissatisfaction through constant complaints. Anger, discontent, and rage. Anger toward one situation or others is another cause of complaints. Those who feel incompetent redirect their inner frustration and anger outward, aiming it at their environment or others. However, this provides only temporary relief and does not solve the deeper issue. Ignorance, losing sight of the truth. Ignorance refers to losing sight of the true nature of things and making erroneous judgments. People with low self-esteem underestimate their potential and misjudge others and their surroundings. This misperception amplifies dissatisfaction and frustration. Chapter 4. How Buddha's teachings help to overcome complaints. So, how can we break free from constant complaining? Buddha's teachings provide concrete ways to find release from discontent. Focusing on inner growth. Rather than relying on external circumstances or others, it's important to reflect inward and focus on personal growth. Buddha teaches that observing oneself and maintaining mental peace is the path to happiness. By prioritizing self-growth and freeing oneself from comparison, complaints will naturally fade away. Learning non-attachment. Attachment to material desires or expectations of others is a root cause of complaints. By learning non-attachment, the mind becomes lighter, and one can live without being swayed by external circumstances. In Buddha's teachings, letting go of attachment is the way to true freedom. Practicing compassion and kindness. Instead of harboring discontent or anger toward others, it's important to cultivate compassion and kindness. Understanding others' perspectives and empathizing with them brings peace to one's own heart as well. Practicing compassion and kindness enhances self-esteem and aids in releasing complaints. Chapter 5. The impact of constant complaints. What effect does constant complaining have on our lives? In this chapter, we explore its consequences. Deterioration of relationships. Constant complaining strains relationships. When dissatisfaction with others manifests in words or actions, it creates discomfort for those around us. This leads to isolation, further fueling discontent in a vicious cycle. Mental fatigue. Holding on to constant complaints leads to mental exhaustion. The mind becomes unstable, increasing stress and anxiety, which negatively affects overall health. Buddhism emphasizes that maintaining mental tranquility is the foundation of a healthy life. Hindrance to personal growth. Being trapped in a state of discontent stunts personal growth. By blaming others or circumstances, people lose sight of their own ability to improve and grow. This strengthens feelings of incompetence and closes off paths to self-realization. Conclusion: freedom from complaints. Constant complaining is often rooted in feelings of incompetence and low self-esteem. To address this, one must engage in inner growth guided by Buddha's teachings. By observing oneself, releasing attachment, and cultivating compassion, one can break free from complaints and achieve true happiness.